Welcome to today's episode, everyone. We've got a very exciting guest for you guys. For those of you just joining the podcast, we're E.N.G Media, and we specialize in helping software and technology companies scale their revenue. So if you want to learn how to take your software or tech business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs. But without further ado, Ali, thank you so much for coming on our podcast today. I'm really excited to dive into your upcoming book, Innovation Agility, as well as your business Ephlux. So appreciate you hopping on, and we can dive right into things.
Happy to be here, Tyson. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So yeah, like I mentioned, let's just start off, highlighting your book that we kind of talked about it, but I would love for our audience of software and technology leaders to kind of learn a little bit more about what your book is going to be about. I know the title is Innovation Agility, but can you maybe just give us a brief summary kind of what's going to be covered on there and some of the key highlights?
Sure, yeah. The book really talks about this broken innovation model that we've been following for decades. It's become very apparent now, given the kind of chaos that we are in, right? Where innovation cannot follow a sequence. While we've been developing software over the past few decades, we've called that a software development life cycle, right?
Mhm.
In today's day and age, the way we've been doing it has pretty much become a software development death cycle when it comes to innovation. So that's basically what the book is about, right? How you can have extreme agility across your enterprise in the way you approach innovation, and tools and process and mindsets that need to come together in order for that to happen.
Absolutely. I know that a key subject in your book is how, it seems like the IT department, especially in a lot of software companies, is tasked with the responsibility for digital transformation. And so I know kind of in your book, you're going to talk a little bit about how arming, the frontline employees who are doing the day-to-day work in the software development to be able to deploy and think of, innovative strategies. That's really where enterprises are going to get the best results. Can you speak, a little bit to that point, or maybe expand on, like an example or kind of, maybe somewhere where you've seen that's not the case and like areas you see improvement?
Yeah, so the biggest point here is there's one thing called innovation, and there's a completely different animal called adoption,
Mm.
right? We've got tons and tons of innovation that is being thrown at you if you are a CIO, or even if you are a C-level executive across different functions within the enterprise. This whole AI thing, since ChatGPT and LLM and now the AI agents, I mean, this is being bombarded, right, left, right, and center. But you, as a company, as a large enterprise, you're sitting a lot on top of a lot of legacy, the core ERP, some of
Yeah.
the core business applications that you work with, and then there's a lot of this innovation chaos being thrown at you.
Right.
In order for you to make sense of it all and really leverage what you've got and adopt that's coming in, uh, there's a kind of a magic trick to it, I strongly feel, right?
Mhm.
Instead of innovating in the way we've been doing in the boardrooms,
Mhm.
the real innovation is not going to happen in those boardrooms anymore. The real innovation, where that happens?
Right.
Where the actual end users, they are interacting either with a customer or a supplier or an employee, solving a business problem day in, day out. I
Mhm.
like to call them as zero moments of truths, where you really realize how a certain way of doing things can be improved or innovated. Um, Now, the problem happens in a typical, what I call a software development death cycle, or an innovation broken model of innovation,
Mhm.
is as that line of business user who really sees those problems in the real time,
Yeah.
the moment they think about how that can be solved, the first thing that comes to mind is that whole bureaucratic process of which they have to go through in order for that problem to get a solution. You're
Right.
going to probably go up the tiers, find your manager, your director, or a VP who's going to talk to a VP of IT or a CIO, and going to get trickled down. You'll find a business analyst who's going to put together a functional spec together if you get lucky,
Right.
if there are no other priorities going on. Once the functional spec is ready, it's going to go into a queue of the architecture group who's going to put together an architecture. And then it's going to go into a long software development cycle, either in-house or outsourced.
Mhm.
By the time the solution comes back to you, the problem has already changed, right?
Right.
And you get stuck in that vicious cycle, which ends up becoming a love-hate relationship between business, IT, and also your vendors. So that's basically the real innovation can happen if you can empower that business user and the business analyst with the right tools so that they can at the speed of thought, instead of writing functional specs, if they can build applications and
Mhm.
and integrate processes faster than they can write specifications. Just imagine that. That's
Right.
what we are doing when we talk about no code automation with a platform called Swift.
100%. And no, I mean, you're 1,000% right. I know, at least in my experience in, the corporate world, I would work in the marketing department for, an e-commerce company, and they would want to implement different type of innovative changes. And really it's like the slow IT approval process. And, because we were the frontline workers, we were the ones working, cross departmentally with each other. And so we actually knew what was possible and what wasn't possible. But a lot of the changes that got, kind of passed down to us when I was early on starting out, we weren't able to implement because tech didn't have the capacity, to do a lot of those things. And so I think if the innovation comes from the bottom up, then there's actually more effective strategies that can actually be implemented when they're supposed to be. And I think that kind of relates a lot back to what you discuss in your book. So really excited to, read it and download it when it comes out. Do you kind of have an estimated date as to when you think you're going to roll out the book?
Should be coming out in about 3 to 4 months. But the idea is to actually build and have these conversations that I'm having with a lot of different CIOs, and this is exactly how it's shaping up. It's not just a book that I'm reading; it's a way I'm kind of getting all those insights of these business leaders and IT leaders and how they're experiencing. Now, going back to the point, like you mentioned about how that becomes frustrating between the business trying to get something done and IT getting stuck in their certain silos.
Yeah.
It's nobody's fault. It's neither the business fault, neither it's the IT fault. It's the fault of how we've been doing it for so long. The
Right.
reason it's getting surfaced, this problem, is because of the chaos and the speed at which the changes are coming in, both from economic standpoint, technological standpoint. Now, this is surfacing that this is just not a sustainable way of doing that.
Right.
And you know what? You mentioned about you being in marketing and doing that e-commerce stuff.
Mhm.
Uh, Typically, a power user or a business analyst
Mhm.
understands what needs to get done
Mhm.
from a metadata perspective much better than a developer ever would.
Mhm.
So, if you can empower that business analyst or a power user to
Mhm.
actually build what's required to be built in a
Right.
way so much faster, and you can iterate through it so that the adoption becomes automatic, right?
Right.
There's one thing you're innovating in a few month cycles, you're going and adopt and trying to implement a new technology. When the rubber hits the road, you end up realizing, this is not exactly how we do things here, right?
Exactly.
So that innovation and adoption, and the biggest issue right now is not innovation.
Mhm.
There's plenty of that coming in, right? It's adoption and
Right.
how to contextualize everything within what you already are doing, what systems you already have, and
Mhm.
can have that. One key concept I talk about in the book
Mhm.
is typically we've always talked about a trade off between agility and compliance.
Mhm.
If you are in a sort of industry where you have to take care of a lot of compliance, there's a lot of security protocols, you won't be agile enough. You're going to move slow.
Right.
So there's always that trade-off we've been talking about.
Uh-huh.
Are you compliant or are you agile? I'll give an interesting example. So we worked with Emirates Airlines for the flight catering division.
Mhm.
Um, they are the largest air kitchen in the world. They serve 150 plus airlines. They serve 250,000 meals a day. Their
Gotcha.
facility, as you can imagine, is going to be highly secure.
Right.
It's basically within the terminal, right? Within the airport terminal.
Mhm.
So in order for you to have that compliance, you have to have those security, both physical security as well as extreme level of cyber security.
Right.
Now, in order for them to move, they have to be compliant with that. At the same time, they need to move things that are done better. An example, their executives, because they are 24/7 operation, and they buy all these different raw materials for the food, the catering that they do for the airlines,
Huh.
it's a 24/7 operation, right? So the executives literally have to go through that airport type security over a weekend just to approve a purchase order on their computer.
Huh.
What Swift, this no-code paradigm, has done is basically completely automated that.
Yeah.
Not just that approval process, but also the whole production line where the meal gets manufactured. They have the ERP, the core business processes were there.
Mhm.
Within a week's time, this whole thing was automated on mobile apps
Wow.
using this no-code paradigm that we're talking about. So
Yeah.
it's complete game changer of how things are done in this new paradigm.
100%. I think it's going to be huge for, like you said, CIOs and other leaders in the technology space to see real world application of all the principles and the mindset and everything that you're going to be discussing in your book. So that is going to be huge. I appreciate you sharing, the context behind all of that as well. And I think it's a great place for us to essentially transition into Ephlux and everything that you're doing at your company as well. Like, so would you mind just telling both myself and the audience a little bit about what your company does and then what your role looks like as well, kind of in the day to day?
Sure. Yeah. So as far as the company is concerned, we are at the intersection of what we call the legacy, the ERP, and the experiences, the innovations that you provide. Right. Our sort of tagline is we provide innovation and agility to every enterprise to create a positive impact. Because we feel that unless innovation and agility are together, embedded, and that's also the topic of the book, that you don't really get an impact. So that's
Right.
basically what we really, stand for as a company.
Uh-huh.
And our product, which is the Swift no-code platform, is basically, sort of a manifestation of our belief system, like we talked about, right? Where innovation and agility has to go hand in hand. So it really empowers the business analysts and non-technical people to be part of a co-contributor a contributor towards innovation, right?
Right.
My role, I think myself more of an evangelist. I've got that left brain right brain combo. I'm a computer engineer and also a marketing MBA. So for me, engineering experiences has always been I've been very passionate about that. And what
Right.
I mean by engineering experiences is basically utilizing my engineering background with my marketing to combine them together to provide awesome customer experiences, awesome user experiences without compromising the compliance and the key aspects of what the core business process needs to do. Think of it like bridging the gap between a business process and the customer journey.
Right.
So that's what we're all about. So I'm between product management and marketing, and helping come up with the new products and ideas, and working
Yeah.
alongside the engineering team and the marketing team, and also helping train the sales and pre-sales team. So that's basically where I kind of work the most as the company leader. But yeah, I'm so blessed to have amazing teams working for us, both on the engineering side as well as on the solutioning side,
Yeah.
the implementations and marketings that it just makes my day working with such amazing talent.
That's huge. Yeah, no, that's really awesome. And I love that your guys' tagline is that you're combining innovation with agility as well. You've been in the space for a while now. Would you say that obviously, that's a huge differentiator for you guys, but do you see a lot of other do you see a lot of other similar companies making that mistake where maybe they have really good innovation, but they have trouble, making it agile innovation to where it can actually be deployed and implemented for the ERP businesses that they work for? Like, is that a common problem that you see in your space?
All the time, right? So all these different companies, these especially the larger ones, these larger enterprises,
Uh-huh.
they've come to a point where they kind of thought that's the only way of how things are done. And
Right.
as we are working with these companies across industries, across geographies, they're realizing that it's just that light bulb moment, right, where they see that, oh, this can be done this way. We couldn't ever imagine. I'll give an example of one of the industrial manufacturers, one of the leaders, um, Carrier, which is like the big HVAC company. So we work on one of their projects in their fire division, where they manufacture fire extinguishers, right? So we have a complete no-code industrial automation done for them.
Nice.
And imagine on the production line, these factory operators, these
Hmm.
production line workers, they had, you can always build something in your lab, and when you actually deploy it,
Sure.
you might realize that this is not how this thing work, right?
Right.
This is not the day to day for these people. But the moment you involve them, because of this no code paradigm, like we said, empowering the end users
Hmm.
with the ability to actually co-create that innovation,
Yep.
it was magical, right? Our sort of engineering architect, he was there on site, and
Hmm.
they were actually saying, oh, if we can change this on the dashboard and this this is how logistically this becomes challenging for us. And
Uh,
imagine those changes happening while you are on site without
right.
having to go back into long development cycles. That's the kind of impact we're talking about. This unimaginable, it was unimaginable a few years back, and now with this new paradigm, it's all happening.
That's huge. No, that's really awesome. And I know you work across a multitude of different industries like construction, mining, manufacturing, healthcare. Are you guys specifically working with, only larger enterprises, or do you also do business with like mid-sized companies and maybe smaller businesses as well?
Yeah, our sweet spot has been the larger enterprises, but we are working with mid markets as well. We've launched a Swift for NetSuite, which is more
Mhm.
SMB, and we are already starting to get a huge success there.
Yeah.
Uh, our earlier thing was like we work with large ERP systems and large companies, but now we are opening it up for that SMB market as well. The
Nice.
other thing I would like to point out that we've launched actually today,
Hmm.
which is the Swift AI Designer. So we've been following this whole AI trend for a long, long time, and you
Hmm.
might have heard a lot about these AI code generators.
Hmm.
And we hate the idea of AI generating code. And the reason I tell you is because this is the whole notion of technical debt. Technical debt is where you have built something and then you have to maintain it. Now, when humans build the code, at
Hmm.
least they have that ownership of the code,
Right.
right? If there has to be maintained, even then it becomes pretty ugly, especially if the code has been built maybe years or decades back. It's very hard to maintain it.
Sure.
Imagine when the machine starts generating code left, right, and center.
Hmm.
Who's going to maintain it? You're going to go back to a developer and beg him or her who was supposed to be, let off just because you had AI to generate code. It's not
Right.
going to be a fun conversation, right? So
100%.
you were about to make the developer redundant because now you had AI to generate the code, and now you're going to have to beg them back to maintain it, and they can't own it, right? So this AI code generation is something that I know there's a huge buzz right now about this,
Sure.
but we are of very strong opinion it's not a good idea. What a
Right.
good idea is to utilize AI with no code, right?
Hmm.
Working AI on the metadata as
Hmm.
opposed to directly trying to generate code and maintain it. That's exactly what we've launched today, and it's a complete game changer on top of what we already have,
Uh,
which is we have a no code way of utilizing your functional knowledge and building software
mm,
without you having to code it. Now, what AI designer is going to do is going
mhm.
to let you chat with AI with your domain knowledge. Like you could go in and say, you know what, I want to build a CRM for my asphalt manufacturing plant.
Mhm.
Now, maybe you don't have a CRM, but the, the LLM behind it would already have the best structure of the CRM. And you're going
Wow.
to automatically create those objects, and you're going to next prompt you can give, create an application based off those data structures that it was created. I'm going to create a fully functional app without any coding, and then you can cross-reference it back to your existing systems as well. So it's a
Oh,
complete paradigm shift of what we are launching today,
uh,
and already the customers who've been the early adopters, they just love it. Um,
that's huge. I assume you probably get a bunch of great feedback as well from like the customers that tested the beta version of that AI. And that's, again, appreciate you sharing those insights because I 100% agree. It's like if it's not low code, then how are you supposed to own it or be able to optimize it or make it better? I mean, you're pretty much, it just in a bad situation at that
I mean,
point.
it's just a lot of code that you have to now maintain, right? Because see,
Right.
the real value gets created in the differentiation that you create within the company. And what
Mm-hmm.
differentiation means is what something is unique to you. So
Mm-hmm.
that unique thing that you're trying to create, AI is never going to be create that, right? So you'll have to have the human element to tinker with the code. And the
Mm-hmm.
moment you do that, then it's nobody's ownership. The
Boom.
machine's not going to own it, neither the human's going to own it. So it's going to be a big, huge mess of technical debt that we're going to generate at an AI speed, which is not a great idea. As opposed to AI, no code automation,
Yeah.
whereby you're working off of the metadata and then building those applications is basically, what we've released today.
100%. Well, yeah, I agree. There's a huge buzz around that, the AI generating code for yourself. But I guess, in the future, that's just going to give you guys at Ephlux a huge opportunity to come in and fix a lot of those systems and have them migrate to something that's actually scalable in the long term. So like these kind of insights are exactly what we love to cover on this podcast, because we can go back to this episode in 6 months to 12 months and really see kind of, exactly what you were talking about. And out of curiosity as well, my background is mainly in marketing as well. I'm always curious, how are you guys getting in front of these huge, ERP enterprise companies? I assume you guys get a ton of referrals because you guys are doing awesome work. And it sounds like you are really providing, extreme value to your current clients. But are you doing anything else? Like, do you guys have any other strategies in place to reach your ideal clients?
Yeah, so I think the key thing we're doing is coming up with as much insights, as much free insights as possible,
Mhm.
and those start getting through the word of mouth spread digitally as well as through word of mouth physically.
Yep.
The other channel is our partners channel. So we
Mhm.
have these large systems integrators who are partnered up with us, who are certified on our platform, and they are positioning it within their overall conversations for enterprise apps and ERP modernization strategies.
Yeah.
That's the other one. And then, this organically, there's a lot of digital that we do already. But the core of that digital is not like putting up an ad. It's more about sharing an insight, a breakthrough insight, a customer success story, bringing a customer talk about that insight and kind of creating a movement around that.
Sure.
As opposed to just putting up some, flyers and pushing them down your throat.
Right.
It's always, like conversations like these, right, where we will, have an interesting conversation within the context of an industry or a business problem or a business outcome that you're trying to achieve, and how no code and now AI combined with no code is gonna flip the conversation upside down. Like I like to call that, flipping around, turning the broken innovation model upside down.
100%. Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that as well. And I think, I always have people ask me if it's, if being, if my strategy for creating a podcast is going viral. And I always say that it's to collect insights, even though that sounds kind of generic and it's just a generic phrase. It's like these are the exact insights that you guys are able to market on your social media. And for those of you who aren't connected with Ali, he's been crushing it, doing a ton of podcasts lately, and that's that was one of the big reasons I had reached out to him. And it's interesting to see that a lot of your current clients and your customers are actually seeing these insights, and it's driving traffic organically to
Yeah,
your.
and it's all about co-creating those insights with your customers, right? So it's not an insight coming from one source, but it's basically that ecosystem, right? That you become part of, your partners, your customers,
Yeah.
who come up with those insights and co-create them together. Is basically what moves the needle.
I love it. Yeah, that's really a big takeaway for me is just talk to your customers, talk to leaders in the industry, find out what's working, what's not working, and kind of get the full holistic picture of it. That is really the best way to differentiate, but also create a solid go-to-market strategy. So I love that. And another question that I wanted to ask you was, what would you say are some goals for Eflux in the next 12 months, related to growth? Are you looking maybe to expand your team, grow the enterprise value of your company, work with more clients? Like, do you guys have any really specific goals for the next 12 months?
I mean, yeah. So we've really focused on, like I said, growing the existing business, but at the same time creating the value drivers
Mhm.
and making them more industry specific. So we gonna verticalize some of this stuff. We are supporting more ERPs. Like we just launched it for NetSuite a few months back. That's already taken off. But more importantly, we are empowering our partners to actually build solutions where they have the depth of expertise to do that. Another initiative that we've launched, we call
Mhm.
it Swift for Campus, where we're actually going out to these colleges
Mhm.
and for their projects that they're doing or research that they're doing, we're embedding Swift into the conversation. Because the future, as you know, it's not going to be the conventional software development jobs anymore.
Mm.
There has to be a better, faster, a quicker way of a more efficient way of how the software is going to get built. So we are going it right at the grassroots level for the business graduates, like the business uh, schools, as well as to these engineering schools, and
Uh,
we are training them on Swift platform and having them build their final year projects or their research projects on Swift itself. And the kind of stuff we're seeing coming out of that is just mind-boggling.
wow. No, that is super awesome. And I think you even mentioned that as well in your book that there's going to be a rise of AI agent managers, like the ability of software developers to leverage AI and just as well as like team members to be able to manage like AI agents that are going to start coming into like these enterprise businesses. And so I think that sounds like that's relating back a lot to what you're doing, going to these college campuses and talking to these students.
That's true. That's the like we're building the next wave of digital workforce, right? So, the both digitally savvy
Uh-huh.
human workforce as well as these digital agents are going to be part of the org structure moving forward. So
Yeah.
managing that is going to be very interesting. Like some of the insights I've heard a lot about is your IT is going to become more like an HR, right? Where it's going to be managing the AI agents
Mhm.
and then making sure that they are aligned with the humans and how that interplay work, like that human in the loop thing that you talk about with agentic AI. I
Uh-huh.
think there will be very interesting things that are going to happen moving forward.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, the other key thing that I mentioned in the book is the pyramid org structure that we've sort of all grown into, right? If you're a company, you're going to have a pyramid structure. Like I mentioned, the decision cycle is going to follow a typical path and then trickle down back, and then it just takes too much time. In
Right.
this new era of this, enterprise innovation, uh, I strongly feel it's going to be more like a playground as opposed to a pyramid. Because if you think about pyramid, they kind
Mhm.
of signify the glory of the past,
Right.
but playgrounds are more sort of flexible. You move fast, so it doesn't matter who's going to score the goal or who's going to hit the ball. It's going to be whoever is in the most competitive position. Could be a defender, right? It could be a quarterback, could be a defender, right? It doesn't matter that only a certain position that has been predestined is going to attack, or only certain people within the team are going to be defending. There's
Right.
going to be that movement and agility that can happen uh, of how it happens in the playground.
Yeah.
So I guess the leadership role is more like a coach who's sort of orchestrating that, training both people, the mindset of the people, and then empowering them with the right tool sets like AI agents,
Right.
and basically have that game being played and basically winning it.
100%. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think there will be a lot of people who watch this podcast or who follow you on social media that are going to want to come to you to figure out how they can have more of a agile organization and be able to actually implement things efficiently through leveraging AI and through everything that you're talking about in your book. And you mentioned to me that one of your goals was to expand your current client base. And a question that I always like to ask on this podcast is, hypothetically speaking, if you had a magic wand, let's just say, to fix one thing in the business related to that goal, could you pinpoint maybe what that one thing would be?
I think from a technology standpoint, I would say that one thing is going to be the inefficiency and the waste, which also in the software space is going to also mean technical debt,
Mm,
because that is one thing that stifles innovation the most.
yeah.
Um, you try to take a shortcut and then you try to fix in something, and with all the best of intentions, right?
Right.
Your business has the best intention because they are facing the market. They need to get an outcome fast.
Mm,
IT supporting it, going to get a quick fix or quick band aid. The problem is over time, that very thing that gave you the edge
mhm.
is going to stifle your future innovation.
Huh.
So that's basically the technical debt is the biggest, I would say, the dragon when
Yeah.
it comes to your overall enterprise that needs to be slayed.
100%. Yeah, no, I think just reducing that technical debt sounds like it's going to be one of those main problems you're going to continue focusing on fixing. And for
Keep paying over and over, right? You're going to keep paying that over and over. And the more you pay it, the more stifled your growth becomes and the more less innovative you are
mm,
into the future. So
absolutely.
it's like you're paying more money to get less innovative in the
Right.
future.
Huh. Super. No, that's super interesting. And for anybody that might want to connect with Ali on LinkedIn, or they want to find out more about what Ephlux is doing, or even maybe if they want to check out your book, Innovation Agility, what would be the best place for them to go to connect, and how should they connect with you?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, as you can tell. So I think that would be the best place to reach out. And obviously, depending on what the conversation is about, I'll definitely be connecting you with my teams who specialize in that particular area. But yeah, LinkedIn would probably be the best place.
That's huge. And I'll be sure to include all of your links in the description of our video. I highly recommend you guys go check out Ali and Eflux, the awesome things that they're working on. But other than that, thank you so much again, Ali, for your time and for your insights today. And we'll catch you guys in the next video.